Welcome back. A growing number of Canadian families are choosing to homeschool their children, according to a study released by the Fraser Institute. The study suggests that while decisions to homeschool in the past were driven by ideology and religion, families are now choosing this option for more pragmatic reasons. At our visit at the Being Me Women's Conference, we met someone who believes homeschooling is ideal for both religious and pragmatic reasons. Let's see what our returning guest, Zohra Sarwari, has to say about homeschooling. Welcome back to our show, Zahra.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you for having me.
So I want to focus this discussion on homeschooling. So define for me, what is homeschooling?
Homeschooling is when a parent decides to get their children educated in a private setting. So it's not a public school or a private school with masses of kids and masses of teachers. It's a private setting, whether they decide to do it themselves, they do it online, or they have private teachers coming in and doing more of the one-on-one teaching and getting their child to be educated in that sense.
So I know you homeschooled your kids, and you managed to homeschool them both from an educational, societal perspective, and you also managed from you gave them religious education. So what were the benefits? Tell me first that story, and what were the benefits that you personally found with homeschooling?
The biggest reason I obviously started to homeschooling was I actually did a lot of research on the best people on earth that grew up, after the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, and I looked at their education level, and a lot of them had more of the one-on-one or the one to a few, to a teacher. They were very limited, and they were
private education.
Private, but also the teachers who taught them had the best manners and the best upbringing and the way they taught and their kindness and gentleness. And I realized that if I wanted my kids to be above and beyond and to be amongst the best, then they'd have to have a different system, because the masses would not succeed the same way. Some will, some won't. And in a house, maybe two of your kids might do really good in some classes and the other two may not, and because we all have different learning styles. So for me, it was what did I expect from my kids at the age of 18? And I said, subhanAllah, glory be to Allah, that I can have them have the car that they want. They can have their own bedrooms because I can afford the house that we want. I can have all these things materialistically, but what will I have on the other end? They'd probably be cursing at me. They'd probably be disrespecting me. They would probably not even appreciate what they had. And at the end, all that I worked for, what did I really get? And so that's where I took homeschooling and said, I want my kids at the age of 18 to have memorized the Quran, the Book of Allah. I want them to have the best manners. I want them to be authors and speakers, and to graduate high school by the time they're 14. I had all these goals set for my children. And when I set all these goals, I realized the only way I can achieve them is by homeschooling myself and making it happen.
So tell me what the outcome was of your kids really quickly.
All praises to God himself. And I take no credit. I give him all credit. I just want to make sure everyone's aware. A lot of people say self-made millionaire, self-made this. We don't have self-made in Islam. Everything that good that comes to us is from God, the glorious. And I give him all praises. And so that being said, I started the action, and there's, obviously we start the action and Allah God blesses it, right? So I started the action, I made the intention, and by his mercy and his generosity, my daughter started at the age of 7. By 13, she graduated high school. Wow. She started university. She's 17, and she's finishing up her third year this year. She just turned 17. She's an author of 6 books. She's an international speaker. She's done charity work. She's worked with human trafficking agencies and done with non-Muslims. She's worked in organizations where she's interned. We've been to Sudan where we've ourselves given food and done, charity work on the grounds, not just doing lectures and raising funds. So there's been a lot of goodness. My son Abu Bakr, he's 13, mashallah, all praises to Allah. And he's in his first year. He's actually finishing his first year of university right now.
He's 13.
Yeah, 13.
And he's finishing his first year of university.
Finals is next week for him, yes.
Wow.
And so that being said, and he's memorized about 20 chapters of the Quran, mashallah, all praises to God. And really, he's an author of 4 books. He's an international speaker. He's done charity work. So they get to really be well-rounded. You can give them more than a schooling because you're not stuck in a box. You have so many more options.
Just from the story of your children, you've given them, through the mercy of God, you've given them a societal education, what we would call that,
yeah.
But you've also incorporated religious aspects. So how did you incorporate Islamic principles within their homeschooling and their education?
Well, Islam is a way of life for us. Everything we do is the way we live. So, it doesn't matter if they're studying, that could be worship. And so we learn that.
How is studying a form of worship?
Well, when you're doing it for the sake of God and you're doing it, to better yourself and to make a difference in this world for the sake of your creator, then that becomes a worship. You're not doing it just for money and possessions and your name and your status and trying to make yourself look good. You're doing it for a bigger purpose. You're doing it to help change the world for the better. And when your intention, it's intention. When your intention is the right intention, then obviously it becomes worship and you get good deeds for it. And so whether that's studying, whether that's praying, everything, the way you treat your neighbors, your friends, whether Muslim or non, all of that becomes an act of worship if you understand, if you know your faith. And so that's our whole way of life. Everything that the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, taught us, all of these important skills that all of the messengers of God taught us, that they are important, and that how do you implement that in your life? Right? And even one of the biggest things I always tell my children, you're not going to be just another grave that's another body that's just passed away. You're here for a big purpose. You're here to change the world. It doesn't matter what your major is, what you do. You're going to make a difference, and you're going to change this world for the better, and you're going to leave it one step better than when you came in. And by giving them that hope and believing in them, and then letting them work on their dreams and goals. So I'm not like, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm about what you love to do, and you're going to be the best at what you love. So if my son Abu Bakr, he wants to be a mechatronics engineer, he wants to build robots and that clean people's homes because he dislikes cleaning.
I would love that.
So he's a big person, and he's like, and it's going to start washing dishes first, so I can stop washing dishes, inshallah. But God willing, so that being the case, you get to build them like that, and no one is going to believe in your child more than you do. So with homeschooling, obviously I'm going to believe in my kids, and I know that they can do it, they can make it happen. Whereas other teachers will like, oh, you probably can't do it, or they can give them, they can make their self-esteem go low. Where I'm just pumping it up and saying, you could do it.
So I'm sure a lot of people watching are very inspired, but the thought of homeschooling is very daunting. And you mentioned earlier there's homeschooling online, there's homeschooling programs. Tell me a little bit about that in terms of resources.
Absolutely. The biggest thing I'm going to tell you, homeschooling is very difficult. I'm going to be very honest. This is a reality. It is hard. Homeschooling is hard. However, it's not impossible. But like anything else, the reward is what you're looking at. So if we don't do like the exercises for the abs, like we want a six-pack abs, but we're gonna do nothing. We're just gonna eat whatever we want. It doesn't work, right? You have to work out really hard. You have to eat the proper diet. You have to get the six-pack abs. But once you get it, you're like, wow,
smooth, yeah.
So my thing is the same thing with the results you want from your children. If you want certain results, then you gotta put in the effort and the time. So I'm gonna say in the beginning, it is tough. I'm not gonna say it's easy. However, nowadays it's become much easier where they have online homeschooling where you can plug your child in and they can have like the K through 12, or there's a definitely like I think about 4 or 5 programs, and I'm not sure the exact program in Canada, but you can plug them in and they can do it at home, and if you don't like,
so it's a model that's developed that
yes,
they can follow.
Yeah, they can follow. And if there's books you don't like or certain subjects, you can ask the teachers to change things and they'll do it for you. And the parent really overlooks them because they have a teacher and they do it really with a teacher. Beyond that, you can hire a private teacher to come to your house and also teach them, whether it's math, Arabic, whatever, a different language you want to teach them, whatever it is, you can have them come to your house and do specific teaching. And then lastly, it's if you want to take responsibility and do it yourself. So obviously the last option is the most difficult one. However, it's the most rewarding.
So describe the image for me, because the traditional image that I've seen of homeschools is, and where that perception comes from, is homeschooling. So you're just at home, 9 a.m. to however long, and you're just at home. Is that how homeschooling looked like in your home?
No, in the beginning I did make a classroom, and I thought I was going to look all cool and have my own classroom and make a board. They didn't work out very well. My kids couldn't sit still. No, they have their own computers, desks, and they're in their room when they're memorizing. They're in a different room if they're reading. They're sitting on the couch. They're in different positions. We have field trips. We travel a lot. They get to travel around the world. They get to see a lot of different places. So
you're incorporating the complete social aspect.
Absolutely. And they have taekwondos in the evening. So they have a group sport where they go and they have to spar. They have to do certain things that isn't, what everyone else does. So it's everything. It has to be the whole, the whole circle of life.
The holistic approach.
Yep, holistic approach.
What about the situation where, you know, you've mentioned one of your kids is 13 and about to finish first year university. First of all, age is a factor because he's so young amongst many older kids.
Yes.
And you're exposed to a whole new culture, right? Like
Yep.
obviously at home you instill Islamic principles, no drinking, etc., whatever the basic principles are, and you're exposed to a whole new world.
Yes, yes.
How do kids who are homeschooled deal with, is culture shock a thing, and how do they deal with it?
If you prepare them for the world, it's not. My kids know people use foul language. My kids know people drink alcohol. They're aware of marijuana and drugs and alcohol. They know what exists in the world. You don't close them out from you. Show them the world, and then you explain why we do certain things and why we don't do certain things. You communicate all of this. When he started his first semester at the university, there was a guy that was sitting behind him who always cursed. He always cursed. And that was one thing my son disliked a lot. He's like, oh, gosh, I hate this because I sit right in front of him and he uses foul language all the time. It's very disruptive, you know. But he knows with respect, he cannot say nothing. You agree to disagree, but you don't say anything. You know, you have to be very tolerant. You have to be very respectful. You have to understand other religions and cultures. We may not agree with them, but we live with them in peace and we work on things together to make a difference. The parts we disagree, you kind of just leave it.
Now, as we wrap up, obviously we could spend a whole day on this, but what advice or where can people go to get more resources about homeschooling? Because I know you have a lot on that.
Yeah, I do have a website. It's called superchargehomeschooling.com because I like to supercharge everything. So superchargehomeschooling.com, I have a free ebook they can download and they can read all about homeschooling and the different types of homeschooling and the resources there. I do also have a blog. I've got articles, I've got videos, so they can definitely check it out if that's something they're interested in. I will be very honest, it's not for everybody. Everybody can't handle it, but I always say look at all your options and then make a decision. So at least you know what's out there before you just decide to follow the herd.
I think this is such a beautiful conversation about education in a very holistic way. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Hey YouTube, we hope you benefited from this video. If you liked it, or if you didn't, let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more, check out some of our other videos. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.